Now. All right, I'm Carrie Hathorn. It's 3:31. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone. We have a lot of online attendees and a number of people present in person. Do we want to do introductions? Because we have a bunch of new names and I honestly don't, I know almost everybody, but not everyone. Katie, your face is up on screen, front and center. Let's start with you.
I love that for all of you. Katie Plum, I'm the Health and Human Services Director for the county and an appointed LIPSIC member.
Who do we have next? I'm just gonna go in the order of the screen at the top and hopefully you all don't move. Erica Bowler.
I am Erica. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Rimrock Trails Treatment Services here in Crook County.
Oh, you guys did move. Bill Condren.
Bill Condren, Defense Attorney Representative for LIPSIC.
Jackie.
Jackie Sharab, Outpatient Director for Rimrock Trails.
Eric.
Eric Ferreira, representing Oregon Youth Authority today.
Welcome. Moved around on me. Who am I missing? Terry. You're muted.
There we go. Hi, Terry Bravo. I'm the Program Director for Rimrock Trails Residential Treatment Center in Prineville.
Think that's everyone. Someone tell me if I'm missing anyone online. Aaron, can we start with you?
Aaron Boyce, parole and probation lieutenant over that division.
Kelly Dunn, lead program coordinator.
Erica for PD Juvenile Department.
Ashley Smith, Dean Director of Berkeley Nonprofit. Angela Cumming, Program Director for Best Care in Crook County. Melissa Thompson, Best Care. Katie Slattery, the Trial Court Administrator for Crook and Jefferson County.
I'm Jennifer Gott with the Oregon Judicial Department, and I'm the Program Coordinator for our treatment courts.
I'm Carrie Hawthorne, DA, and this is Cassie Garrison, who is my office manager, who is helping me try to keep this thing on the rails today. First on the agenda, I have the minutes. I attached them to the calendar invite, and I think I emailed them out. Our last meeting was September 11th, I believe, of 2025. If everyone's had an opportunity to review those, I will entertain a motion to approve those.
I move to approve the minutes for September.
And all in favor, aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, motion unanimously passes. Next I asked Kelly Dunn to give us an update on the House Bill 4002 deflection program, which we call LEADS.
So I put together some statistics on how many people that have been in the LEAD programs and there were possible candidates. And there has been 70 possible candidates. 37 of them were ineligible because they either 12 of them lived out of the county and 25 of them were charged with another non-qualifying charge, which would be anything other than at the beginning, anything other than a PCS standalone charge. And then in March, we amended our program to include PCS standalone plus PCS with some qualifying charges, which were theft-free, criminal mischief 2, disorderly conduct 2, and possibly a weapon as long as it wasn't a gun. So 25 of those 70 people had non-qualifying charges. So they had other like burglary or UUMV or something else. The 33 remaining clients. 13 of them declined the program. 3 of them declined in the jail. 8 of them did not report to me once they were released from the jail, or they didn't respond to a letter or phone call. And then 2 of them that were in the jail refused to speak with me either because they couldn't, or they just did not want to speak with me. 19 have entered the program. And entering the program is completing the lead intake, and then they're referred to best care. Of those 19, 2 people failed to go to best care for their assessment. And then 14 reported to treatment in groups, but 14 of them failed to report for treatment or groups or their UAs within the first 30 days. And then 3 failed clean UAs after the first 30 days. We've made 3 amendments to the program. One was the adding the qualifying charges, those 4 charges. We did that in March because we were finding that just standalone charge, we weren't getting any clients. July, it was in July of the 2025 that we added the additional qualifying charges. In December, we amended it to allow clients, and this was brought up by the peer coordinator from Best Care. She said, if they're not doing well in the first 30 days, too bad we couldn't get them into treatment. So we brought it up to the group, and we decided that if they didn't provide a clean UA, but they were going to treatment, didn't provide a clean UA the first 30 days, then they would have the option to go into inpatient treatment. If they went into the inpatient treatment, if it was 30 days, then they would come out and do the remaining 90 days that they have to do, so 60 more days in outpatient. And they had to remain clean and sober and be attending the groups, and then they would be successful in the program. If they went to a 90-day program, they came out and they've been clean and sober for 90 days. So that's so far, we haven't had any successes in the program. We have 1 person in the program right now that completed the lead intake, and now we're waiting for him to get out to best care. Another thing that we added in November was that we contact the peer counselor when I have an intake, when I know that I'm going to have an intake, and I invite her in to sit in with that intake. So she can hear what this person is saying. She interacts with them, provides support, and then will be able to take them directly out to best care and get their assessment done. And we're hoping that that will hit that little spot where they have a hard time getting from my office to best care. And so far, she's set in on 2, I believe, and it's been really helpful. Plus, she can hear that they need to get their OHP started. They need to get set transportation, that type of thing. So that's the deal so far.
And do you want to comment at all on
Um,
leads?
I think
Yeah.
Kelly has
Okay,
covered leads pretty well.
perfect.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions, additional comments?
I'm wondering when the folks are being offered it, when they're in jail, might that be a good time to even begin engaging with the peer? Since, if sending the peer down there. Cause with the 8, I think you said that said yes in the jail, but then they never showed up.
Yeah.
Like if that was a relationship that was beginning to build with a peer who then could potentially meet them when they're being released and walk them to you.
Yeah, that would be
Like that
great.
might be something we could look at.
Okay, I think that's a great idea, yeah.
I think if we look at our program in Deschutes County, the peers are really the magical formula to the whole thing.
Yeah,
And, the more work we can really let them do, the more successful it's been. So I think every opportunity really to have them be that person that's not just coordinating everything with rides and various things like that, but really trying to break down some of those barriers that are causing them to say no. And really be able to kind of just call them out on maybe reasons why they're wanting to, you know, I'd rather just take the jail time or whatever it is. It's been successful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, normally if they get arrested and brought into the jail, then, I go into the jail and talk with them and they get released within an hour.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be able to talk with them. In some circumstances, they may be able to get in there and see them, but, when I know that, they get out and they set an appointment with me instead of just walking right over and doing intake. When they set the appointment, then I contact, the peer person and, yeah, she comes out. It's been great.
Yeah.
So.
The only way they'd be held is if they have something else holding them.
Okay.
They aren't held because it's a pre-charging opportunity, so the way they end up in custody is usually some sort of parole or probation hold, or perhaps there's an arrest on another crime, and Kelly's been really proactive of trying to
Yeah.
get people in, meeting with law enforcement, just hasn't been super successful.
And just, and a side note, not all of them come to jail, like this, the latest per client that, did engage. It was, they were contacted by police, they were given a citation along with the contact information for, Kelly, and then it was a follow through, so that. And that is, the ultimate model of this is that they never actually come into the facility.
Well, it took us a bit to get it up and going in Deschutes as well, so don't give up.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone online? Next I have on the agenda, sim mapping update, Angela.
Well, so the last lipstick meeting in September, I had asked the group if anybody was interested in doing another jail diversion sim mapping. There wasn't really any interest. Wondering if that's changed.
Why don't you explain what it is?
So that's the sequential intercept mapping. The last time that it was done in Crook County, and I did not bring my paper, was in 2017 or 2018. That was before we took over as the CMHP in 2019. So GOBE, which is Greater Oregon Behavioral Health, is the one who comes around to any county who's interested. They put on a full day sort of workshop, getting all of the community partners together. And the sim mapping is for the purposes of jail diversion to try to figure out these different intercepts where we can potentially try to do some pre-booking diversion so that folks with SPMI diagnoses potentially don't end up in the jail, which is where we see them. And then they kind of clog the system. And I know that we see that all the time. It's one of the things that's very frustrating for all of us. I know that what was expressed in the meeting last time was when the sim mapping was done in either 2017 or 2018. The mapping was done, a bunch of community partners participated, and then there was like zero follow-up. And I don't know who the person was. There's supposed to be like a county cheerleader essentially, who's like the main person that gets together with GOBE to set it up, and then that person should be kind of following up with next steps. I don't know who that person was. Obviously, it was nobody that's still around. But when we look at what the old sim mapping had been done, a lot of the things that are on there aren't even in existence anymore. And a lot of the players that are on there aren't even around anymore. I don't know, a lot of people have changed. And so I know that the hesitancy was, we did this, we all spent a day, we took a day off our calendars to do this, and then nothing happened with it. I think that there is potentially benefit to be able to do that. particularly if there is a hope to try to divert folks. We do some post-booking jail diversion, like we have sort of our list of people that are frequent flyers in the jail. We do engage with a lot of those people, whether they're actively in treatment or not, but we really have no pre-booking diversion that's happening. So I do see that potentially being able to be an area that we could explore. The workshops are free. Gobi is willing to come and do it. I think in the minutes of like in September, I think I shared with everybody what the old sim mapping was and the old report that ended up being like, I don't know, I think it was like 30 pages or something. But if anybody's interested, I'm still happy to set it up with Gobi.
What does diversion mean? So in my mind, when I hear diversion, I think a PO or somebody monitoring or avoiding criminal charges, somebody's monitoring, reporting back if they're in compliance. So what's the idea behind that of who does what?
Yeah, so I mean, the different intercepts are sort of like the different points along the way for a person. So intercept 0, right, is really before the person has committed any kind of crime, but they're displaying behaviors that are indicative that this is the road they're going down. So what as a community can we do to make an impact on that intercept so that we never actually get to 1 or 2 or 3 or 4? And then if they get to one where they have been, arrested for, let's say, a lower level crime, what can we do to not, kind of advance their criminal career, frankly? And what are the services that they need that maybe they haven't had that has gotten them to this point? So you're sort of looking at each intercept and then what can you do? And the last intercept is when people are coming out of prison. And what are we doing to prevent them from going back into prison? And so it's really just looking at every point and what as a community are you doing to kind of prevent things. So that's really the idea. And then recently, I think we got an email saying that they are now doing the civil commitment.
Right, so I was actually gonna ask about the civil commitment mapping. If nobody is interested in the jail diversion mapping, there is now, Gobi is doing civil commitment mapping. And so what they're doing is, it's the same kind of idea. They're coming out, it's a full day, but they're bringing together, defense attorneys, the DA's office, the CMHP, the hospital, the jail, all of the people who would be involved in the civil commitment processes to really help map out like all of the things that should be happening. And I mean, I think for the most part, we've got a pretty decent kind of fluid system, but I think that there is definitely the possibility that we will see potentially more commitments that are coming down the pipe because of the laws that have changed. And so that might be, if there isn't really an interest, or maybe down the road maybe there would be for jail diversion, if there is an interest for the civil commitment mapping. Gobi is booked several months out for those, so if we were to do it, it wouldn't be until I think the fall anyway. But if there is interest, then I can start getting that ball rolling.
I would be open to participating in the sim mapping again. I have the last 2. I know we did one in 2016. I know we did one in 2018. I was at both of those. So I'd be open to making a day available to participate in that.
We have a hand up, Erica.
Yeah, hi. I actually just last night saw a brief presentation by Gobi on their youth sim intercept mappings that they do. And so it's like on my mind. And then somebody in that meeting actually messaged me and said, "Hey, do you think we want them to come out to Crook County?" So anyway, that just happened last night. So they, if you're not aware, they also do this very specific to youth. And so it's like youth diversion. And yeah, what I got from it is they essentially come out, it's like an 8-hour day, and they get all of the community partners and folks who interact with youth. And then they just I saw it as like an assessment really of like where are the gaps in your system at these different levels. from public health, law enforcement, emergency services, detention, courts, community reentry, all these different things. So anyway, yeah, and they come out and I don't believe it costs anything to do. And then you get sounds like a great big report. Sounds like your last one was like 30 pages. You get a big report at the end and provide recommendations. I would also be interested in what the follow up part, and support is following that. But I can tell you that folks on the meeting I was in last night thought that their brief presentation was pretty helpful. So maybe if you aren't going to make any decisions about this for a while, maybe they could come and do a 5-10 minute presentation.
And the person I've been communicating with at Gobi did say that if it would be helpful, they could certainly join whatever meeting to talk with people about what it would look like.
Yeah, the report that they provide is really, it's the follow through on their part. There is no follow through on their part. They're handing the report back to the community and they're saying, here are the things that you as a community have identified that you need. And so you as a community now sort of go and do these things, right? And so, when Deschutes did it back in the day, one of the things that came from it was that they wanted and needed a stabilization center. So then they built it, right? So really Gobi doesn't do any follow through per se, but it's really up to the community to carry that out.
But the report did have, it came up with action items and like next steps that people, should take. It's just obviously whoever was doing that, I don't even know if they got the report and just didn't share it but it died. It fizzled and died at some point along the way, and everyone spent an entire day and nothing came of it. And I get why that would be frustrating.
I want to say it was actually more than a day. Do you remember, Aaron? I thought it was like a day and a half.
I think it was up closer to 2 days.
Yeah.
It was at least a day and a half both times.
Yeah, the exercise was really valuable. I think the follow through is what was disappointing because I still remember making those action plans and I think there was a lot of enthusiasm at the time, but without that follow through, I see why people have some hesitation.
And I would be interested in doing the youth piece, and I don't know if they have to do those two separately, but then, there are a lot of community partners and players that would have to be at both. So then you're really asking for, people to commit not only for the, the adult side, but also the youth side. So I don't know if that's something that we're going to work with us and say, hey, if we want to do both, is there a way to not condense? But that way we're not asking so much time because half of the partners are going to be, we overlap. So I don't know. And I don't know if there's like a, contact to ask them those kind of questions or what, but I'm sure I haven't talked to Erica, but just from her, I'm certainly interested and I would participate in the youth. I would help on that piece. So
I think the important piece for our end would be some time without docket. Because it sounds like a significant time commitment, and I don't know that anyone wasn't willing to do it. I think it was just like, what exactly is it, and what's the goal, and what does it mean?
Yeah.
So I think perhaps the best suggestion is maybe reach out to like, who's a list of involved partners who need to be present. We're missing some key pieces today from this meeting. And then can we schedule it and, is the court willing to either a 5th week or something where the community partners have a clear docket so that we can all commit to spending a day at it? And what is the time, what is the time commitment, those kinds of questions, but.
and if they can combine those two, is it a little bit bigger time commitment, but can we do youth and adult maybe separately, but the same?
So I can definitely ask that. So would the interest then be more starting with the jail diversion side? Because that's where like the youth would come in too, is the diversion side, not the civil commitment side, obviously.
I'm not interested in civil commitments because I don't have anything to do with civil commitments and I don't want to start with civil commitments. But that's my personal.
I don't know enough about what that question means to be able to give you an answer.
Okay. Well, I will reach out to the person at Gobi to find out, is there even an option to combine? Because if we did, it would be, I think, the diversion side of things, because I think it's adult diversion and youth diversion is on kind of the sheet. And so we can start with that.
Those partners are gonna be the same. That's the one that's gonna be.
That'll be different.
And that's what I mean, because when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking of people at the table, I mean, other than Erica and I and OI, you know, represented from OIA, really those other players are going to look the same in both of those meetings.
Okay. Next, anyone online have any additional comment? Next on the agenda, we have, Ashley Smith here, with Imperfectly. The sheriff actually connected me. I understand that Ashley went and spoke with the sheriff about, kind of some thoughts and ideas about potential housing prospects for women and children. So I thought this would be a good, well, the sheriff thought, I agree, that this would be maybe a good place to introduce your organization, what work you do, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, friends. Some of you have very familiar faces. We've spoken before in the past, or we've worked together in the present, so I'm grateful to be here. As Carrie mentioned, I am Ashley Smith, founding director of Imperfectly Nonprofit. We provide skills-based education for women in recovery or those navigating the justice system. For the past 4 years, I have been contracting with multiple different recovery centers. My very first one was back in April of 2022, started at Dawn's house. And then across the street was Abby's house or Shepherd's house. From there, I went to Turning Points, which is now New Priorities. From there, Parole and Probation and Deschutes County asked me to come. And then apparently I gained a reputation in jail. So they want me to come to the jail starting in April, which is great news. And currently we've got Oregon villages on our wait list in Serenity Lane. So we continue to grow and expand our footprint. I believe that education is a huge piece of the missing puzzle in the journey of recovery if we want long-term sustainability. And currently I've had 112 women. Now this year we'll make it 124 women will be going through my program. We've had 93 to complete recovery wherever I've been contracted with. 89 have secured jobs and housing, and we've had 12 mom and kiddo reunions, which is my favorite. But over the years, I have seen a growing need for women escaping crisis situations. And where do they go? And being that I contract with multiple different recovery centers, guess who's often the triage of these crisis situations? The biggest burden that I carry is I see the faces and I know they're babies. And I cannot live alone with the heaviness that I hear all too often without providing a solution. So over the past few months, I had the honor and privilege of touring a space back in my hometown, which is Georgia. There is a huge refuge called City of Refuge. It started back in the 90s. They've been operating extremely well, a multi-million-dollar organization, but rescuing women out of trafficking situations, domestic violence situations, and housing both women and children on site. And the space that I walked into was unbelievably beautiful and filled with joy. And I said, I want that in Central Oregon because it's not often that I go to recovery centers where it's filled with joy. And this place was. So my goal is to create a ranch of refuge where we house women and children. Oftentimes we're funding the end of a pipe. I like to say is if you're putting money into the foster care system, which unfortunately we have to do because we have so many kids in foster programs, but you're not addressing the leak up top, it will always have a trickle down effect. When you have a program where women and children are together and they're on a journey of healing and hope together, you put a plug in both of those holes so that the generational curse that continues to happen stops, and we produce families that are healthy and hopeful. And so that's the vision of this refuge of ranch. I thought I found the perfect location here in Powell Butte, which was the Catholic diocese a couple of months ago. And then somebody with really big dollars came in and put a offer on it. So when the county approves that one will be gone. So we are back on the market looking where this ranch of refuge will be. But we are all about sustainability. That's been the core of what we bring to our organizations. And the Ranch of Refuge is a place where we can provide on-site job skill building. So when we find the acreage that we have already established a partnership with Healing Reins. So Healing Reins will board horses on our property. And we'll bring our kiddos out there. The women will understand the process of the business of boarding horses. What does it cost? What are the expenses associated with it? We are in conversation with either Rain Shadow Organics or Seed to Table. So we want to grow our own food and provide culinary skills for the women and floral arranging and get contracts for floral baskets outside of our community. And then last but not least, dog boarding and dog grooming will be on site because we're all in need of more doggy places and boarding places. But it's really the businesses behind each of these entities, how to make the ranch sustainable, but help the women build a nest egg so that when they leave our location, and Thistle and Nest is very interested in partnering with us to have that next step of transitional housing, to get these women into safe locations, living alone. But currently we provide programs such as we partnered with COCC. We get cars donated to us from Bar Towing and tow truck company, and they impound cars and they take them to COCC. The students there work on them, and then we're all about performance. So the women that are performing in our program, they turn in 6 months of budgets, they have a job, they have a valid driver's license, they can apply for our car and they can get it donated completely free. We've partnered with Cabby Clothing Company. High performers get to go shopping and get several different outfits. They get a portfolio of pictures so they can have that for their job profiles. And are there any other programs that we do? Healing Rings, that's what we do. We take kids, our women to Healing Rings, which is why I smell like a Barnhart today. But that's what we do. Any questions so far about our Ranch of Refuge or our current offerings?
It says on here that you found something in Sisters.
I have identified a property in Sisters. We have hired a land trust attorney to get the zoning approved. Here's my beef with that. They want to know how many people will be using water. And I said, well, how do you weigh that against how many kiddos are being sexually abused? And you tell me which is more important. And so he looked at me with cross-eyed and was like, okay, maybe we'll expedite this. And I was like, that'd be great, thank you. So we do have a property in Sisters that we are looking at. We are doing a capital campaign. So if you know friends in the community that are behind this, we have one DV shelter for all of Central Oregon, serving 250,000 plus people. It has 10 beds. Let that sink in for a moment. That doesn't feel very good. So you guys probably experience a lot of what I do, and you know that there is a desperate need for this.
Is the idea to have, I guess, it's described as low barrier, no barrier, right? Someone on site, I guess, rules and
Yes.
regulations.
The model is after City of Refuge, so they have all the rules and regulations. I'm simply plugging and playing a model that has been very successful since the 90s. Yes, you do have to have 24/7 security on site. You cannot have any drugs on site, so somebody would have to detox before they ever step foot on our property. It is a non-smoking property too, so no smoking either. And believe me, I believe my girls, and I have seen so many of them, have the capability of overcoming some of these hurdles that are free range in some of the locations.
So what is the typical length of the?
2 years max, depending on the individual's trauma that they've been through. Some are longer stays, but they've got women that go through it six weeks, 9 weeks, 9 months. Just depends on their journey. The first month you sleep. That is what they need when they're coming out of a traumatic experience. After week 6, they can start integrating into some of the on-site work opportunities. After week 8, if you don't want to work on the ranch, you can partner outside in the community with other workforce efforts if that's what you'd like to do. But 2 years is the maximum stay.
Any online questions? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I added on the agenda, we are out of date. We missed our December meeting, due to scheduling and other things. The bylaws require, a vote, for the chair and vice chair. The bylaws actually, say that it's supposed to be done in the last meeting of the year, and then, the position will be filled the beginning of that following calendar year. We didn't have our December meeting. I don't know if there's a proposal from the group on how to handle it, going forward. I've been in this spot since I started here, and, it's becoming more and more of a heavy lift of organization, data, publishing, tracking, all of those things. So I know the sheriff's position is because this group, is responsible for voting for, funding to PNP. The sheriff, doesn't want, anyone from the sheriff's office to be in the chair position. I don't think we don't have, enough people here today, and actually I was counting, I'm not sure. We may have to send out an email, for a vote on the minutes, because I think we might be one short for quorum, if I counted correctly. But, so we can't vote today, but I think we need to bring this back up. Maybe, unless somebody else wants to chime in, the best way is we send out a who wants to be considered. Those who've been here longer than I don't know how I think I was kind of voluntold.
And you came on the heels of.
It was
It
Judge
was-
Whiting when he was DA, and then the chief
Chief
took over,
Hoover took over,
Cummings,
Chief Cummings took over, that's right,
Mhm.
and then he retired.
and gave it to me.
And
He
gave it to you.
delivered the binder.
And then, yes, you've had us.
Yes. So, food for thought. If anyone's chomping at the bit for a conversation about it today, we can. Otherwise, I'll put it on the next agenda item.
The chair doesn't have to be one of the statutory required members.
No, I'll double check that, but I think it does. Because it has to be a voting position and the statutory required members are the voting, but I will double check that piece. Katie,
I'm willing to throw my hat in that ring.
love it. Erica,
I was just giving her a,
oh, yay. Yeah,
for volunteering.
You were raising your hand.
I would send out a list to, I think I attached it to this calendar of who's the statutory and who's the non-statutory members. So I can resend that out to the group as well. So, I mean, we could just vote somebody who's not here,
Not here.
but I don't know that we have quorum anyway, so, any additional comment on that? I will, next, where's my agenda, community partner updates. I'm gonna start with you,
You're
because
gonna
I'm
start.
looking at you,
You're just
yeah.
looking at me. So starting with, I guess, the sheriff's office, or the sheriff's not here, so I'll give a brief update on them. Everything kind of is status quo, they're still we're moving 2 jail deputies, into patrol spots, starting in, I believe, first one's May, and then another one in July, that way moving over, transitioning to patrol deputies, which we have started some hiring for the jail to backfill those positions. I think they have one in the background right now. So that's kind of the news on the sheriff's office that Bill told me quickly as he ran out of here. As far as parole and probation, we continue just to plug along, getting through the budget. The good news is, out of the legislative session, there was no further cuts to DOC. Well, I guess DOC as a whole took like $3 million, which is a drop in the bucket out of a $500 million budget. But none of that is trickling down to community corrections, which is good news for my division. I was in a meeting this morning the 27-29 budget, I guess, is looking bleak. So it's gonna be some challenging times ahead. That's what I have for partner update. I was gonna touch briefly on a justice reinvestment. I pretty much give an update every time on justice reinvestment. I think at our September meeting, we had just finished the application and had approved for our 27 or 25-27 justice reinvestment grant, which is now in full swing. We've done our first quarterly reporting on that. CJC has had a bunch of changes in the way they are doing things, which is definitely going to affect 27-29. I know Lipsick's going to become a even bigger part of that conversation. Part of why I'm also kind of interested in sequential intercept mapping, because part of the justice reinvestment and drug court grants, well, all CJC grants are going to require a public safety plan for the community, which they have not exactly told us what that is yet, which is always fun since we're less than about 12 months away from starting to write the grant. But it is going to be kind of a big lift where we have to have community partner engagement, figuring out how we're working as a system to move forward and meet the goals of justice reinvestment, which the goals of justice reinvestment are providing community safety while also reducing prison usage and less jail usage. So those are our goals of justice reinvestment. Our justice reinvestment program has been pretty similar for the last 4 years. When we got rid of work crew and we brought Tara on as a mental health tech in the jail, her position is covered out of the justice reinvestment, which has had a dramatic impact in the jail. Pulled some statistics for our last grant reporting. There was, I believe it was a 60% reduction in use of force incidents in the jail. Just having her available to talk to people. There was also a significant reduction in the number of times we're having to call crisis for people in suicidal conditions where they're in a small. So it's been a program that has been extremely effective in the jail and reducing a lot of that, which obviously jail is a traumatic place for people. It's understandable, but having somebody that they can talk to has been very beneficial. And then on the parole probation end, it's also been very helpful. She's running an MRT class for us that we can just refer directly into MRT. And then the other parts of our justice reinvestment, it covers half of a deputy DA position that it focuses on downward departure sentencing, and then also half of a PO position that also is in those same downward departure cases. So overall, we've seen a reduction in our prison usage dramatically over the last 3 years for sure. That's kind of an update on the justice reinvestment as a whole. That's all I had.
Erica, I'm not sure if way in much update. You're just talking, so I don't know, for those who are aware, we have an intern, we're using an intern out of M3 Alliance in our office. This is our 3rd intern. And it's worked out wonderfully for us. Our last intern really focused on anger management. This intern is really focusing on, she and another therapist are running a DBT group in our office. She's able to intervene on like crisis situations, help kids through their diversion packets that, some of us, we just don't have time to sit with them and read every line. So she's been able to sit with them and kind of do their change company diversion packets. Rimrock still comes in and does groups, and then we have a great partnership. We go and see Best Care. So really just trying to utilize our community partners to create more diversion for, our young people and keep them out of the court system. I think the last numbers, I think we were like 84% we handled informally this last year. So for our cases, which is hugely different than we have been in the past. Just really trying to free up some docket time for some real stuff that's happening in our county, and not take every factory in MIP to court, but really trying to utilize, like I said, our community partners and work together. So I'm always open to ideas that people have, any wild brain ideas. I'm always open to listening and bringing new people in, and I think anything we can do to kind of get our kids connected, and avoid going to detention, avoid ending up in Oregon Youth Authority custody, all of those things. So, yeah, I'm open to ideas. We've done some horse retreats. There was a local grant. We did some equine retreats that was hugely beneficial to our kids. They're asking for us to bring that back, although that was a one-time grant that wasn't ours. So now I'm trying to find out who wants to take on my kids. So yeah, just like I said, I think just utilizing community partners. So that's out to everybody. If anybody has any of those ideas, or you hear something or whatever, I'm always willing to open my door and share my kids with you. Harry's like, no. Yeah, just to help create the version. That's really it, yeah.
Angela?
I don't really think we have a whole lot of updates on our end. I mean, we're still in contract negotiations with Pacific Source, so there's still not a signed contract. So our current contract is over at the end of June, I think it is, over at the end of July. I don't have to do all of that. That's a Melissa thing. But yeah, that's been a process apparently. But I mean, nothing particularly, I don't think, interesting to report.
Yeah, the negotiations they're not going well, if I'm being really honest. So as a Central Oregon unit, they're not going well. So it's not just us. They have proposed pretty substantial cuts that they are unwilling to move on. And so we would have to reduce the services that we are providing. So at this point, Deschutes County has not signed, we have not signed, St. Charles has not signed, Mosaic has not signed. So it is pretty bad right now, if I'm being really honest. And I don't really know what's going to happen. I think we're in a little bit of uncharted territory. And unfortunately, I think we've asked for some help and support from OHA, and their response is that they are not going to step in. So we'll see. The Health Council is also quite upset, I guess is the best way to say it, about the current state. And so they're at a retreat right now that I know they're heavily talking about this. And we'll see what happens. But I mean, at the end of the day, you can't continue your level of services when their proposal is at least a 15% cut. So that's that. We have submitted our preliminary application for CCBHC, which is the Certified Community Behavioral Health Centers, which is a federally supported, similar to sort of the FQHC, which is the Federally Qualified Health Centers, which is what Mosaic is. It's a federal program that has been bipartisan supported for over 10 years now, which is really great. Provides kind of additional funding for the CCBHCs, but it's really trying to treat the person as a whole person. So coordinating services with primary care and specialty care, and really instead of each of us just kind of looking at the person from our own lens, that we're really kind of all working together. That's the idea. And so we submitted that. I don't anticipate that, like, if we get approved and if it all sort of works out, that would likely be like early next year that would go into effect. Yeah, I think those are the main updates. Katie, on behalf of the court.
I'll have a ton. I'll echo Erin's sentiment. It was nice to see that out of the legislative session that we didn't have cuts for the judicial department. So we got some additional funding out of that. I've heard the same thing, that 27-29 will be bleak. So I guess we'll just get through that when it happens. But yeah, I will defer to Jen if she has anything for the treatment courts, but. I was just thinking about it. I think the last time I was here, I was asking for a letter of support because we were submitting our grant application. Since that time, both of our applications were funded. CJC had far more requests for funding than dollars available. And so there were, across the board cuts that every single program took. And then there were, certainly the grant review committee made recommendations based on applications and based on implementation of best practices. So if a program wasn't providing enough drug testing, then there could potentially be a recommendation to increase your drug testing. And the emphasis that we were told was to direct your funding request towards those recommendations. So if you're not testing enough, the recommendation is to test more. You would be requesting funding for additional drug testing. Our mental health board, this was the first year that we have had it formally funded on its own. And because of that, we weren't limited to any type of caps on our request. The adult drug court obviously has been funded many times before. And so programs that had already received funding were not allowed to request any more than, I believe it was 20% than what.
I think it was 10%.
Was it 10%? Okay. I knew there was definitely a limitation. And so you could not request anything more than what you had received in the past, minus that 10% cap. So there definitely were some areas within our adult drug courts that we've had to make some modifications and definitely some adjustments. I'm excited that we do have the mental health court funded at the level that we do, because that really has been where we've seen a lot of growth lately in terms of meeting that high risk, high need population. I think we have met that mandate very well based on some of our recent entries. I think that both programs continue to move forward in a positive direction. We're preparing to implement a new phase structure and recovery court that aligns with the latest best practice standards. And our mental health board has been using a roadmap meeting model for quite some time, where we've tailored the response to participants, because we've had, I believe, two folks come back to us. And so we've learned a lot from that. And rather than just having this is what your model is, our participants are very varied, so they have varied goals and varied expectations. And so far, I think we're seeing it's brought growing pains, but I think we're seeing successes.
DA's office has been busy. We have been kind of down, we're down one DDA. We've been sort of stable. We have one attorney who just took the bar, so we're all crossing our fingers and toes and all the things. And know that he will be successful. I've been kind of out of commission with a significant case that was set for trial that then got bumped at the last minute and is reset. So it's been, thank goodness, I have some strong people in the office who've been kind of picking up that slack. County's headed into budget, which means lots of budget meetings and all the things. And other than that, I don't think I have anything. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff, but I think that's enough. Katie, you are next up on my screen. Well, I guess I went straight to the top.
I'll take it. For veteran services, I'll start there. We are down a veteran service officer. Tom Evans is no longer working for our office, and I know some of you had been working closely with him. You can still contact our office. We do have a VSO on staff and are actively recruiting for another one. For public health, we have Public Health Week coming up, and we'll start promoting that. We are hosting a perk on let me get the date. It's the first full week in April, so perk is on the 10th. We'll send invites out. Would love to have you all. I want to introduce Haley Morris, who is our overdose prevention coordinator, and she has an update for y'all too.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. I think I've met most of you at this point, but Yeah, again, I'm Haley. I'm the overdose prevention coordinator here at the health department. I'm really excited. Most of you have probably heard this as well, but we are kicking off a recovery run club group here next week. So we have up to 10 folks who can join us, and the first 10 who join will get a free pair of running shoes. We're partnering through Foot Zone and Bend for a discount for those shoes. They'll get a t-shirt, and then they'll also get their race entry paid for an upcoming race in Redmond in June. So it's a 12-week program. It's open to folks in addiction treatment, in recovery, whatever form they're in. I'm excited to say we have a 70-year-old and a 69-year-old, and then somebody in their 30s so far. We have a few other folks as well, and yeah, just really excited to give them a space to kind of meet other folks in recovery and do something fun. So yeah. If you know of anybody, also, we have a couple spots available still, so please send them my way.
Thank you. Erica Fuller.
Hi, I'm going to let my two stellar employees give updates on program stuff. Jackie?
Sure. Haley, I do want to say I signed up for the recovery run and I'm very excited. But at Rimrock Trails outpatient, we currently have 3 clinicians in our Prineville office, and all 3 of them have openings. They can take children, adults, adolescents, pretty much anyone at this point, and it can be co-occurring, mental health, SUD. And then we also have our ARC program that is up and running. We have Lynette, who is in there as our care coordinator, and she can conduct ASAM assessments, walk-in basis. And then we also have Lacey Satterfield. I keep wanting to call her last name different. And she is our peer support worker. She can work with anybody in the community basically and provide peer support for them.
And I guess I should mention one of our new procedures is that all of those kids with first time MIPs that we've never seen in our office before are going to the ARC and giving assessments. And we're letting sort of Rimrock take that lead on that and let us know kind of where they fall, which has been amazing because those MIPs sometimes are difficult. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Erica. Yeah, we do appreciate and have pride in our rapid access right now. So if you do have kids that need to come in, please send them our way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so here in our residential treatment center, we work with adolescents with co-occurring diagnosis, so the substance abuse and mental health. Right now we do have beds available for girls. So as I'm meeting with community partners, I'm still hearing on occasion that not everybody is aware of that. So we are accepting both male and female adolescents, 12 to 17. And of course, it's residential treatment, 90-day program where we provide the treatment services here on campus. So yeah. Anything else I'm missing? I don't think so.
Excellent. I think the last is Eric. Do you have anything on behalf of OIA? You don't have to.
No, nothing to add. I'm just filling in for Mr. Mabonka, who's going to be the regular attendee for this meeting, but is on vacation. So I appreciate being able to be here. Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Bill.
Oh, Bill, where did he? I think he disappeared. Did it go away? Okay, it's not just me, right?
No. He's up there. He's up there though as a participant, but.
Bill, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here, hearing every comment made about me.
Your head disappeared from our screen.
Okay, well, I'm here. I also don't have a whole lot I can report. I wish I did. We've got our current full roster of attorneys at this time. Sorry, I have a board meeting tomorrow that I wish this meeting was after that board meeting or vice versa. The Oregon Defense Consortia Association we belong to. That's our advocacy lobbying organization at the legislature. And so I know we'd be getting a full rundown and debriefing about what's gone on with the legislature. I haven't heard that public defense was facing any major cuts. I think it would be really hard for the legislature to do too much in the way of cutting, given all of the scrutiny that things have been in about supplying enough defense services. Other than that, I would like to say I wish I had something to report, but until I, get the report at that meeting tomorrow, I'm kind of limited.
Anyone else have anything? Am I missing anyone else? Anyone else have anything? We are, I probably should have said this at the beginning, we have the Crook County Foundation presentation today, so that's where a good chunk of our people are. They've been in this room doing presentations all day, and then they're doing a jail tour and some other stuff over with Bill and other people. All right, I will adjourn the meeting at 4:32. Our next meeting date is June, do I have this right? June 11th, 2026 at 3:30. Same online, and we'll send out a proposed agenda, and I'll send out some emails just confirming voting on the minutes, since that's the only thing we voted on today, and wait to make sure we have quorum and count it, the voting members, and then list of who wants to put in for chair and vice chair, or if anyone has any objection to how we've done it, since it's not technically last December, but we didn't have the last December meeting, so 1, 2, 3, not it. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all.